I raised the shotgun, thinking someone was about to break through my damn door. But it was a cougar, a big, pissed-off cougar. And behind her, 3 cubs, barely the size of house cats, clinging to her sides like shadows. I didn't move. I just stood there in my kitchen, behind the dusty window, holding my breath like a fool. My heart slammed so hard I could hear it in my ears. I live out here for the quiet, for the space, not for this shit. The cougar didn't growl. She didn't charge. She just stared at my house, her yellow eyes locked on the door like she owned it. Her ribs were showing, her fur dirty and patchy. The cubs didn't even look scared, just tired, like they'd been walking for days. Hell, maybe they had. The fire up north burned hotter than anything I'd seen in years. It ate through acres like tissue paper. Smoke was still thick in the mornings. I thought it missed my part of the woods. Guess it didn't miss hers. She stepped closer, real slow. My hand tightened on the shotgun, but I didn't aim it. Not yet. Don't do anything stupid, I muttered under my breath. Not sure if I meant her or me. She stopped 3 feet from my porch. The cubs hung back, bunching together like one furry, hungry mass. I noticed her paw then, blood-crusted and swollen. She was hurt. Fuck. This wasn't an attack. This was a last resort. I backed away from the window, shotgun still in hand. My mind was spinning. Every instinct screamed, lock the door, call someone, shoot if you have to. But there was no one to call. Cell service out here was a joke. Nearest town's 20 miles, and even they don't deal with big cats. I moved to the door and opened it an inch, just enough to look out without being a complete idiot. The cougar didn't move. Her eyes flicked to mine, and I swear to God, there was no rage in them, just exhaustion, and a challenge, like she was saying, asterisk, you scared? Good, so am I. Asterisk. I stood there, one hand on the doorframe, the other still gripping the shotgun. I should have shut the door, should have barricaded it, should have gone back to being the kind of man who doesn't play nursemaid to dying animals. But I didn't. I opened the door all the way, slowly, kept the shotgun lowered. She didn't move. The cubs edged closer. I stepped back, just 1 pace, leaving the door open. That's it. That's all I did. The choice was hers. She came back the next morning. I didn't sleep much that night. Every creak in the floorboards, every whisper of wind outside had me on edge. I kept the shotgun close, propped against the wall near the door. Around dawn, I made coffee with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. I told myself I'd imagined it all, that maybe I was losing it. But then I heard them. Tiny footsteps on the wooden porch. Not loud, but enough. I peeked through the curtain. There they were. The mother stood a few feet from the steps, crouched low, watching. The cubs, 3 of them, were on the porch, sniffing, pawing, playing. One of them even batted at an old boot I'd left out there. That's what got me. That damn boot. I opened the door just a crack. She didn't flinch. Her eyes followed my every move, but she didn't growl. Just watched. Jesus, I muttered. You've got some nerve. The cubs froze when they saw me, all except one. The smallest. He had a limp, barely noticeable, but there. He looked me dead in the eye and didn't move an inch. I closed the door, then opened it again 2 minutes later with a chunk of leftover deer meat from the freezer. It was old, freezer-burned, but still meat. I walked out, slowly, and placed it halfway between the steps and the edge of the yard. My palms were sweating like hell. I backed away, closed the door, watched. She didn't come forward right away, just stood there, eyes locked on the house. The cubs looked up at her, then back at the meat. The smallest one whined, and then she gave the tiniest nod, or maybe I imagined it, but suddenly they moved. They swarmed it like bees. One of them growled at the others, and the mom let out a low, almost silent grunt that shut them up instantly. It was wild, sure, but it was disciplined. I stood in the kitchen, staring through the screen, asking myself what the hell I was doing. Feeding wild animals? Am I insane? What if they keep coming back? What if someone finds out? But then again, what was I supposed to do? Let them starve? I told myself it was temporary. Just this once. just until they moved on. They stayed for 15 minutes, ate like wolves, then retreated back into the tree line without a sound. The boot lay knocked over, a reminder. That afternoon I didn't do much. Just sat on the porch, shotgun across my lap, listening, watching, waiting. My chest felt tight all day. Not from fear exactly. Something else. Like I'd opened a door I wasn't sure I could close. Around dusk, I heard movement again. Not heavy like before. Just soft, deliberate steps. I stepped outside and saw nothing. No mother. Just the smallest cub limping up the stairs. He didn't growl. Didn't run. He stepped right up to the edge of the porch and looked at me. And then, like he owned the place, he sat down. On my goddamn welcome mat. It was 2 a.m. when I heard it. Scraping. Shuffling. Something knocking over a metal can outside. I shot up in bed, heart already sprinting. Grabbed the flashlight and the shotgun without even thinking. That's the routine out here. You hear a noise, you check it. Or you find out later something tore up your place. I eased the door open and stepped onto the porch. Cold air slapped me in the face. Moonlight lit the yard well enough to see the trash can tipped over, lid rolling in slow circles. A few wrappers scattered. No sign of anything else. Then I spotted them, tracks in the dirt. Fresh ones. Too small for the mother. These were cub prints, and they led straight from the edge of the forest to the can, then back again. So they were getting bold. Or hungry. Probably both. I followed the prints a bit, just past the yard's edge. There were broken branches, flattened grass, even a bit of fur stuck on a splintered fence post. I stopped when the trail turned down toward the creek. That's when I saw it. Across the creek, maybe 30 yards out, was the old Miller place. Burned out in the 90s, never rebuilt. Just a stone foundation and what's left of a shed with half a roof. And inside that wreck of a shed, 2 glowing eyes. I froze. Not from fear, okay, a little from fear, but mostly from the weight of understanding. That's where she was hiding them. That's where they'd been coming from. I backed off slowly, flashlight off, making sure not to make noise. By sunrise, I was back at the porch, drinking coffee like it was medicine. I couldn't stop thinking about those eyes, that broken-down shed, and the fact that she'd made a home there so close, 100 yards from my back door. I wasn't alone in the woods anymore. Not really. Around mid-morning, I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. That meant one thing, company. I set my cup down and stepped off the porch. It was Nate, my nearest neighbor, lives about 2 miles down the road. Gruff guy, wears a permanent scowl, owns too many guns. He got out of his truck, didn't even say hello. You feeding him? I didn't answer right away. He pointed toward the empty trash can. Tracks all over my place too. One of my goats spooked last night. Found prints by the pen. I said, "They're not causing harm." He spat on the ground. Yet, you feed wild, they forget they're wild. One day you'll turn your back, and bam, they tear your throat out. I crossed my arms. You got proof it was them? He took a step closer. Don't need proof. I've lived here long enough to know what's coming. There was a pause. Real heavy. Then he said it low and hard. You feed them again and I'll deal with it my way. He turned, got in his truck, and drove off. I stood there a long time, shotgun leaning against the porch, staring out into the woods where the shed lay hidden. What the hell was I doing? I waited until late afternoon, when the sun cast long shadows through the trees. If I was going to do it, it had to be now. I didn't take the truck, too loud. I walked, shotgun slung over my shoulder, med kit stuffed in a backpack, hands sweaty as hell. The old Miller shed looked worse up close. Half the roof was caved in, beams blackened by age and weather. It smelled like rot and dust and something else. Something wild. I crept up slow, every step careful, like I was defusing a bomb. I saw her before she saw me. She was curled up near the back wall, ribs heaving, one paw stretched out and swollen twice the size it should have been. Her fur was matted, stained dark near her side. Blood, maybe old, maybe not. The cubs were huddled together in the corner, wide-eyed, ears twitching. The smallest one, the limper, let out a soft whine when he saw me. She opened one eye, just one, locked it on me. I froze. My fingers twitched toward the shotgun, but I didn't raise it. She didn't growl, didn't move, just stared. I set the gun down slowly, took off the backpack, opened it. My hands moved like I was in a trance, pulling out gauze, antiseptic, tape, old gloves. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, I whispered. So don't bite me. She didn't. She didn't even flinch. I inched closer, crouched beside her like I would with a wounded dog. Her breathing was rough.
If you love stories about wildlife rescue, click the subscribe button below. Here's how the button looks on different devices. Every subscription helps spread these stories and raise awareness. The more people know, the more animals get the help they need. And remember, subscribing is completely free. Click subscribe now and join us in protecting wildlife.
Shallow. The wound on her side wasn't fresh, but it was dirty. Infected maybe. I poured peroxide on it and she twitched, but didn't attack. That alone felt like a miracle. I talked while I worked, kept my voice low, steady. Not for her. For me. You know, my wife would have told me I'm insane. She hated cats. Said they were sneaky little bastards. Never thought I'd be patching up a mountain lion. I glanced at the cubs. They hadn't moved. I never had kids, I said. We tried. Didn't happen. Maybe that's why I'm doing this. Maybe not. I don't know anymore. The bandage wrapped around her leg like a makeshift cast. It wouldn't hold long, but it was something. I cleaned what I could, left the rest, and then I just sat there, back against the wall, shotgun across my lap, watching her breathe. The cubs shifted, but stayed put. An hour passed, then another. She slept, or pretended to. I wasn't sure. At one point, I whispered, "You gonna make it? Because I can't carry you." "I won't." She didn't answer, obviously, but for a moment, her ear twitched like she'd heard. Night was coming. I stood, gathered my things, slung the shotgun back over my shoulder. Before I left, I looked back. She was watching me, fully awake now. I steady, calm, not thankful, not afraid, just watching. They always find out. Doesn't matter how far you live from town, how quiet you keep. Word spreads, like wildfire, and this time it started with a missing dog. 3 days after I patched her up, I drove into town for supplies. Can meat, bandages, more gauze. Didn't say much to anyone. Just nodded at the clerk, paid cash, kept my head down. On the way out, I heard it. She was a good girl. Never ran off before. Damn thing just vanished. That was Martha, old woman with a poodle the size of a loaf of bread. My stomach twisted. I got in the truck and left fast. Too fast. Drew eyes. By the time I got home, a sheriff's car was parked in the driveway. Nate stood by it, arms crossed. I almost kept driving. Sheriff Barnes waved me down. Big guy. Used to play football before his knees gave out. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Mind if we talk, Frank?" I killed the engine. Got out. "About what?" Barnes glanced at Nate, then back at me. "Folks are nervous. Lot of prints showing up near town. Goats on edge. A couple pets missing. Just wondering if you've seen anything strange lately." "Strange like what?" I asked. Nate stepped forward. "Like mountain lions. Maybe ones that got a little too comfortable." I stared at him. "You accusing me of something?" "Not yet," he said. "But you keep feeding them, and you're not helping." Barnes raised a hand. "Easy. We're just here to talk." I looked past them at the woods, the direction of the shed. Barnes followed my eyes. "We just want to make sure nobody gets hurt. If there's an animal out here acting strange, we may need to trap it. Relocate, maybe, or worse, if it's dangerous." I said nothing. "Frank," Barnes said, voice lower now, "if there's something out there, you gotta tell me." I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But I also remembered her eyes. The cubs. The way she laid still while I cleaned her wound. Not a sound. Just trust. Raw, dumb, dangerous trust. "I haven't seen anything," I said. Barnes sighed. "All right, but if anything changes, you let us know. We don't want trouble." They left. dust trailing behind the cruiser. I sat on the porch afterward, staring at the empty gravel road. The woods felt heavier that day, like they knew I'd just lied. That night, I left food by the shed. Nothing fancy, just meat and water. Didn't see her, didn't see the cubs. But in the morning, it was gone. I checked my traps. I'd set 2 small ones months ago for raccoons near the garden. Both empty. But on the edge of the yard, I found something else. A torn piece of red cloth, like from a dog collar. I stared at it for a long time, fingers tightening around it. Then I buried it in the woods. Did she do it? Did she kill the dog? I don't know. But that night, when I looked in the mirror, I didn't like what I saw. A man stuck between silence and truth. I was running out of food. Not just for them, hell, for me too. The shelves in my pantry looked sad. A couple cans of beans, a bag of rice with a hole chewed in it, half a jar of peanut butter. I hadn't gone to town since the sheriff visit. Didn't want to draw attention. Didn't want more questions. So I rationed, mostly for them. 3 days in a row, I dropped meat scraps and water at the edge of the woods. Didn't see the mother, but the cubs came. Hungrier now, bolder. One hissed when I didn't back away fast enough. The limping one, he didn't hiss. He just stared at me like he was waiting for something more. I didn't have it. I was losing weight. Could feel my ribs when I stretched. My pants hung loose. Coffee became breakfast and lunch. Dinner was a spoonful of peanut butter and a lot of staring at the floor. And still, I fed them. One morning, I opened the fridge and found nothing but condiments and a bottle of ketchup. I stood there for a long time. Didn't move. Just stared at the cold emptiness like maybe something would appear. But all I could think about were those cubs. The way their eyes lit up when they saw meat. The way they clawed and snapped at each other now. Aggression was setting in. I watched one of them pin the limper to the ground over a scrap of fat. No real damage, but the message was clear. There's not enough to go around. That night, I skipped eating altogether. The next day, I tried to hunt. Took the old .22 out into the trees. Spent hours tracking rabbit prints, deer scat, anything. Nothing. The woods were quiet. Too quiet. Like they'd been picked clean. I fired once, missed by a mile. Sat down on a log and cursed until my throat hurt. I thought about calling someone. Wildlife Services. Hell, even Nate. But I didn't. Instead, I went home, opened the last can of beans and split it in half. Half went on a chipped plate out back. Half went into a saucepan for me. They came that evening. The mother too. Thin as bone. Her wound looked better, but she moved slower. When she saw the beans, she sniffed, then turned away. The cubs didn't. They licked the plate clean like it was steak. And for a moment I felt good. Then the smallest one, my limper, turned and looked straight at me. And he growled. Not playful. Not scared. Just a low, hungry sound that sat in my chest like a stone. I didn't sleep that night. Every noise outside made my skin crawl. My shotgun stayed in my lap till morning. This wasn't some sweet wildlife tale anymore. This was survival. And not just for them. I heard the scream just after sunrise. Not human. Not quite animal either. A high, desperate wail that cut through the trees like a blade. I dropped my coffee, grabbed the shotgun, and ran. The sound led me toward the far edge of my property, near the old logging trail. That's when I saw the blood. Small, sharp drops in the dirt, leading to a brush pile. Then I saw him, the limper, caught. His front paw was clamped in an old steel trap, one of those rusted bastards with jagged teeth. Nate's handiwork, no doubt. The cub thrashed, eyes wild, mouth open in silent panic. I dropped the shotgun and knelt beside him. "Easy," I whispered, hands shaking. "Easy, kid. I got you." The trap was tight. Not broken bone tight, but deep enough to draw blood. I pried at it with everything I had, muttering curses, sweat pouring down my back. Finally, it gave. He stumbled back, dragging the leg. I reached out. He snapped at me, then froze, like he realized who I was. Then he limped off toward the woods. That's when I heard the click. I turned. Nate stood 10 feet away, shotgun leveled at my chest. His face was stone, cold, empty. "You just can't help yourself, can you?" he said. I raised my hands, slow. "He's just a cub. He wasn't hurting anything." "Not yet," Nate said. "But you're not doing him any favors. Wild's gotta stay wild. You mess with that, you get someone killed." I stepped between him and the trees. "You gonna shoot me over a goddamn animal?" He didn't answer, just kept that shotgun steady. Then he lowered it a fraction, looked past me into the woods. "That the same one that took the dog?" he asked. I didn't speak. His finger twitched on the trigger. "Last warning, Frank. Next time I see one of them on my land, it won't be a warning shot." And then he pulled the trigger. The blast tore through the air above my head, scattering birds in every direction. My ears rang. My legs locked. He turned and walked away like nothing happened. I stood there a long time, staring at the smoke curling from his barrel, the still bloody trap at my feet. Later, I found the cub's trail. Dragged paw, broken branches, drops of blood. Followed it all the way to the shed. The mother was waiting, standing tall, watching me. I didn't go closer, just left a small pile of painkillers and gauze at the edge of the clearing. Then I walked home. My hands didn't stop shaking till sundown. Spring bloomed hard that year. Wildflowers pushed through the ash. Green covered the wounds of the fire, and the air started to smell like life again. I didn't see them for 3 days. No cubs, no mother, no tracks, no signs. At first, I figured they were just laying low, maybe resting. But by day 5, something twisted in my gut. I walked to the shed. Empty. The old blankets I'd left were untouched. No droppings. No scent. They were gone. For hours I searched the woods, followed trails, listened for any noise. Nothing. Just birds and wind and the crunch of my boots. I even called out once. Just a soft, stupid "hey." Like I expected an answer. I went home and sat on the porch until the sun dropped behind the ridge. That night, I lit a fire in the wood stove and stared into it. Told myself it was for warmth. Truth was, I felt cold all over. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. I kept thinking maybe she'd died. Maybe the wound got worse. Maybe Nate got bold. Or maybe she just moved on. And that hurt more than I expected. The next morning, I didn't make coffee. Just grabbed my coat and headed up the hill behind the house. Higher ground. Maybe a better view. When I reached the top, I stopped short. There, across the ravine, standing on a rocky ledge in the sunlight, was the cougar. Whole, strong, clean. Her coat gleamed like copper. Her body fuller now, and flanking her 3 cubs, all on their feet, even the limper walking better. She saw me, didn't run, didn't snarl, just looked. Our eyes met across the distance. No fear, no anger, just recognition, like 2 people who'd survived the same storm. She turned slowly, almost lazily, and led her cubs into the trees. I didn't follow, just stood there, chest full of something heavy and warm. I walked back home, sat on the porch with the old mug in my hands. Empty. Didn't cry, didn't smile either. Just sat. People ask me why I live out here, why I don't come to town, why I keep to myself. I used to have 100 answers. Now I have one. Because out here, when something wild looks you in the eye and chooses not to kill you, you remember it. She didn't thank me. I didn't expect her to. But when our eyes met, I understood everything I needed to.